It makes perfect sense that Donald Trump smells like ass. I mean, that is, you can see it on him. The fact that he's got that hair.
You look at
his
him and
hairstyle.
you see ass smell. I
It's
mean,
like what? Like 9 feet of hair swirled
yes.
around on his head to cover up his bald spot, right?
Right. It's
That,
what Penn Jillette famously called piss cotton candy. Is what he
yeah,
referred to
exactly.
it as.
And so that requires maintenance. And I wonder if he skips taking a shower every day because it takes a long time to set that hair up.
Can you
Like, I wonder
imagine?
if he's
Like,
got a whole collection of hair nets sitting next to his bed that he wears to bed and just doesn't shower, doesn't clean that hair as often
right.
as he should. So the BO
Well,
accumulates.
that
And then he
stinks
probably,
too, probably.
yeah, and then he probably tries to cover it up with some sort of El Cheapo cologne like Dracar Noir or something like that. And the combination of body odor and like sort of magazine insert cologne
I was having a talk with
ends up smelling like shit.
with Tony Michaels about this, on his show, and my theory is that they take a suit and they just completely douse it in Axe body spray, and then they lower, with what are the things, the pulleys like you lower a horse with? They lower Donald Trump into it, and then they roll him over and back in the Axe body spray, and then he puts because the other thing is his suits are cheap and crappy and look like he found them at a he went thrifting and got them. Like his tie hangs down below his dick. I wish somebody would teach him how to tie a tie. Sorry, pet peeve from 10 years of Episcopalian school. But in any
He'll
case,
never do that because his ill-fitting suits and the hair and the makeup and all that stuff. That's all woven into his brand, and he's never going to give up his brand.
quite literally woven in.
Yeah, it's literally the weaving of his suits are woven into his brand. That's all he's got. That's the only bankable thing that the Trump organization has going for it is Donald Trump's personal brand. That's what he's selling. They end up slapping his name on all these buildings. Why? Because the owners of the building want to be associated with Donald Trump's brand for some up reason. And so that's how he's able to do all of these licensing deals with various Trump towers around the world. So I understand
his name's
why
come
he's
off
doing
a lot more buildings since he became the fascist demagogue than has been added to buildings.
But can you imagine being so trapped into that image? Like you end up landing, like the image that you're most famous for is up hair and that orange makeup on his face to cover up rosacea or whatever the hell he's doing. And then the weird baggy suits that have all the like creases from sitting too much. He's a gut, and the lifts in his shoes and all the rest of it. He's a goddamn mess. And imagine being trapped. Like, this is what I'm famous for. I have to keep doing this. It's like with Guy Fieri, the Food Network host, Guy Fieri. That guy's going to be 90 years old, and he's still going to be wearing his hair and his sunglasses and the tattoos and the wristbands and all that shit. He's trapped in that brand. And so imagine being Donald Trump and being trapped in that.
Now, I mostly
visage,
agree with you. But I sometimes wonder, he's so gauche, right? Like he's so gross and gaudy and just classless. And he always dreamt of being like this star in Manhattan, when he lived in Queens, as if, having a lot of money in Queens wasn't good enough. And he could never live up to that. And he tried to do what he could. He's got, obviously, you've seen the Saddam Hussein palace he lives in. I sometimes, or did live in, until we basically booted him from New York. I do wonder if some of it is like, this is what his dad drilled into him. You have to wear a suit and tie every day to look like you're important. Because his dad, we both know Mary Trump. She said that he was the ultimate sociopath, Fred Trump. Made Donald almost look tame in comparison, which is why there's so many of these in the family.
Yeah, it's like, where would we be with democracy right now if Fred Trump was actually a loving, empathetic father? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. If Hitler wasn't such a shitty painter, the world could have turned out a lot better for a lot of people, right? Mm-hmm. So it's true, and I do wonder how much of it is brand and how much of it is he thinks he looks good. Yeah. That he doesn't, he exists in his own world, as we know. He thinks when he rants in those crazy Truth Social posts that is normal, and that people read that and are impressed by that, like regular people, normal people, as opposed to just his lunatic base. and the people that have to like him for their jobs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even the people that are going to begrudgingly vote for him, and I'm not making excuses for them, voting for him at all is an act of terror, as far as I'm concerned. But the ones who are going to go and do that, even they would be like, that shit's crazy, right? When they look at like the stuff he writes, he thinks all of this stuff looks good, sounds good. So I do wonder how much is branded, how much is he thinks his hair looks good. He thinks that makeup where he looks like a fucking bozo looks good. He thinks the suits are fitting him properly. I mean, I don't know, man. Like that's kind of what I mean, I kind of feel like that might be the story. I could be wrong, but
smelling like ass, part of Donald Trump's brand now, I guess.
It is.
Feels the
So
need
now
to,
he's,
hey, if I don't stink, then the Trump organization is going to lose money on my name.
I mean,
something like
the
that.
only thing we don't know for sure, Bob, is, and I'm not going to find out, or do my best not to ever find out, is when, someone like Kinzinger referred to the odor. He is too much, he's still much too conservative and a congressman to go into what that odor was.
Right.
I mean, it could be, so you're right. Noel it could be exaggerating, and maybe it's body odor that's so disgusting, or his breath, or some combination of all of those things. I mean, he doesn't look like he takes cleanliness seriously, as you said. That hair is just a fucking mess. I mean, how many things do you think, like alternative life forms, Silicon Life? You ever see the episode of The X-Files? May have formed in his hair and be growing. It's like a petri dish in there. So I mean, is it that he clearly, if you've seen some of those images, wears Depends and probably poops himself here and there. Does he do it all the time? Don't know that he does. I have no idea. But what I would say is, like, the odor could be a whole variety of things, and it could be all of it put together, which just, to me, makes me think to myself, my God, like these women but I'm talking about like women who voluntarily chose to mate with this person.
Yeah.
Like,
it's incomprehensible why anyone would look at Donald Trump and say, yeah, you know what? I got to see that naked. I don't understand that mindset.
I gotta hit that. I mean, why don't you just mate with a gorilla throwing feces at you? I mean, you get the same effect out of it.
Yeah, right. And I think the sex would also involve some form of peeing, if the Russia rumor is correct. So we're getting into really disgusting territory.
Okay, I have to say one last thing that was hilarious to me.
Yeah.
When we were in Vegas, and at this point, the Trump Tower, by the way, out there looks so outdated, old. It's perfectly on brand for Trump. Like these beautiful new things like the Venetian, the Bellagio, and these places like that, these palaces, the Caesar, whatever. And then you've got this old crappy, it looks circa 1975, it's just a straight sort of perpendicular gross building, and it is colored yellow. His building looks like a golden shower.
Well, you know what? That's the other thing about the Trump brand is everything is like this nouveau riche, tacky, sort of tasteless, gaudy, like a poor person's idea of what a rich person looks like.